and welcome to Second Chance. Second Chance is a weekly talk show that examines a wide range of social issues and seeks to inspire physical, emotional, social, and spiritual healing, believing that God is a God of second chances. And through faith, all things are possible. Second Chance airs live each week from the beautiful campus of Oakwood University and features real people with real issues and offers real answers. And now, here's your host, Kenneth Anderson.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Second Chance radio broadcast. I am delighted to be here with you as always, Kenny Anderson, of course, bringing the show to you as we do every Sunday from 2 to 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, originating right here in Huntsville, Alabama. And of course, I'm always privileged to be able to talk to some pretty amazing guests. And I want to say, folks, in terms of show preparation and production, in anticipation, this is going to be one of the best that we have during the month of December. Got some great conversations coming up, and I hope that you'll stay with us for the ride. We're going to do it a little bit differently today, meaning that we're going to dive right into things after I first acknowledge that every show this year dedicated to the life and legacy of my dear mother-in-law, Mother Ernestine Fletcher Tibbs, who we are establishing a scholarship for at Alabama A&M University for their School of Social Work. This is the first endowed scholarship in the almost 50-year history of the school, basically because not only is my wife Sonia a graduate of A&M, I'm a graduate of A&M, but Mother Tibbs attended A&M, and although she did not finish, she wanted to major in social work. I've worked with social work majors in my office for the last 10 and a half years, and it has been a tremendous privilege and delight to be able to do so. So we want to give something back, and we want to do that in the name of my dear mother-in-law, Mother Ernestine Fletcher Tibbs. We, of course, will always provide information for you to know how you can join us in that process as we establish that scholarship for students majoring in social work at Alabama A&M University. My first guest today is no stranger to this broadcast, what I first should say, but she's no stranger to me, of course, because I consider her my sister by so many different definitions, and I'm just always honored to be in the same space as she is for a lot of reasons. Now, if we could technically be in the same space today, that would even be better because she's usually cooking up something delicious. And of course, with the holiday season rapidly approaching us in terms of the Christmas holiday, which at this moment is only 15 days away, we want to make sure that you have some ideas and some thoughts about how to prepare yourself for the holidays and do so in a way that you can navigate it safely and in a healthy way. Donna Green-Goodman joins me today. She is a nutritionist, an author, a stage 4 breast cancer survivor, and she, of course, is here as a co-owner of an awesome organization called LIfestyle Therapeutix that she co-runs with her husband, my man, Eddie Goodman, and my brother. And I'm so glad to have her here today. You may notice that she's staying in a very special place today. That is, we call it in space technology, I guess it would be like mission control. So it's like where everything happens. It's like the war room. It's like where things get done, the situation room. Donna, how you doing this afternoon,
I'm
sis?
doing good, Kenny. I'm doing real good. I kept thinking as I was prepping, we used to do this together live. So we could eat and taste and all of that, but
and listen, we're going to get back to that space as soon as possible.
We can make a delivery.
As always. Listen, you're one of the best at this thing in terms of just keeping people prepped and educated about health, keeping them inspired about what they need to do in order to take care of themselves. And Don, I always like to start just with a maybe a Cliff Notes version of your personal journey in terms of health, going all the way back from 20 plus years now as a breast cancer survivor.
Yeah, it's been 27 years, actually. I can't even believe when I say it. I was diagnosed with invasive aggressive metastatic breast cancer and told I only had 2 to 5 years to live. My training in health education and nutrition gave me pause to really think about how that could impact my outcome. And I found a cadre of caregivers and medical professionals who understood what we call lifestyle medicine. I included the prayer of faith through an anointing and radically changed how I lived. And the doctors were not happy with me, but they continued to observe my health improving, not just the breast cancer, but a host of other things that I was experiencing and had no idea would respond so well to making the lifestyle choices. And so I've done that. And I promised God that as long as He gave me breath, I would do what I'm doing with you today.
Wow. Well, listen, it is just a tremendous blessing to have you here, to know that you're still moving forward in a very positive and engaging way with the mission in your own life and the purpose of helping other people do better as well. We know that the holiday season is a time where people like to indulge family, food, fellowship. And one of the most important one of the most important things is that we want people to navigate this journey in the most healthy way possible. We don't want to micromanage their shopping carts and what they put on their plate. We want them to be mindful that we really are what we eat. And the choices that we make about food really impact our lives in some major ways. So I wanted you to come on today to kind of guide us through a little bit of that whole journey as we think about and anticipate what's going to happen in just a few days, and really what's happening beginning, or what began happening just before Thanksgiving and will happen even into the first of the year. Is all of these different things are happening with receptions and weddings and gatherings and fellowships that are taking place. It's going to be a lot of eating and a lot of choices being made. Talk to me a little bit about where one might begin with this process.
Well, Kenny, what I actually did was I went back to an old recipe that I was introduced to when I first started working as a home economist for the Georgia Extension Service. And for Christmas, our boss would have a party. And at that party, there would be so many wonderful things because all of us were home economists. And so we knew how to do what we need to do in the kitchen. But several of us on staff were vegetarian. And this was way before the big whole food plant-based movement that we live in now. But Alva Youngner, who was my boss, was always sensitive. And like you said, she was not policing what we were doing, but she was making sure that if we had different needs, that they were met. And one of my favorite dishes that she ever made, and as I was doing this, I thought about you because I know you don't like peppers, so we have to make another version for you. Yeah, what she did was make this sauce, Kenny, that was like cream of mushroom base, and there was milk in it. And then she would add vegetables to it and meat, ham and sausage and stuff. And so for those of us who were vegetarian at the time, she would just leave out the animal products and make like a cream of mushroom or cream of celery. And so that was one of the dishes that I was very interested in making for myself once I decided to do this fully plant-based. But I also wanted it to taste as good, because a lot of times when we go into the healthier choices for this season, nobody wants to eat it except the people who have to eat it. And so I was determined to create some things where those who perhaps were not making as healthy choices would want to eat what we were doing too. So the way that I made this different was to change the base. And for a lot of people, I don't know if they realize it, but you can take nuts, cashews, almonds, walnuts, if you want to, and make a cream out of it. And if a person is allergic to nuts, then you can make a roux out of flour and water. If you're no oil, you don't have to put any oil in it. But if you use oil, you can add oil to it and make a roux. And then you can take that roux and add more liquid to it. And when you add more liquid to it, then you get that cream like Alva was making for all of us. And that can serve as the basis for this amazing, delicious recipe that I'm getting ready to demonstrate so quickly in front of you. I'm going to turn this on and get this blended. And the beauty of this is you literally have just made cashew milk. So if you don't like cashews, you can make almonds. If you don't like almonds, you could use walnuts, any kind of nut that you like. And again, if indeed you do not, if you have an allergy to nuts, you can just make a roux and make that creamy. And there are a lot of other half and halves on the market that have less fat and stuff in them that you could use as well. So this is very creamy right here. And I'm going to put it in this pot. And as I pour it in the pot, you might be able to see that it's kind of thick.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what your cream of mushroom soup looks like when you take it out of the can.
Mm-hmm.
And usually when you take it out of the can, then you reconstitute it with some water or milk. So I'm literally now going to pour some water in here to reconstitute this. Probably about 4 cups total. And then I'm going to put this on the stove while we keep talking on medium heat, and it's going to thicken up just like an amazing sauce that you put in as a base. And then what she would do, Kenny, is start to add all of her other ingredients. And the things that I like, of course, would be stuff like this. This is onion, celery, the different color peppers so that they pop inside of the dish. Fresh garlic for sure goes in everything. And then I have some vegetarian sausage that I would use in place of the traditional pork or turkey sausage that others would eat, and mushrooms. So for a person like you, my husband doesn't like mushrooms, but he'll eat it if I make the mushrooms big so he can pick them out. He's gonna get a chance to do that this time. If you're like you and you don't like the bell peppers, you can just take the peppers out altogether and fill it with other things that you do like. So that it's this nice creamy recipe. And a lot of times years ago, we used to go to Shoney's for breakfast, and they would have this creamy white gravy to put over the grits. Essentially, that's what it is. So you can make it just plain with onions and celery and garlic and sausage if you wanted to. You can add mushrooms. People use jackfruit, whatever. What's the benefit of making it this way? Well, it's full of garlic, which is anti-inflammatory. All of these foods that are on here are also anti-inflammatory. They fight blood pressure. They improve outcomes for diabetes. They definitely help the body's immune system, which is very important this time of year. And it tastes amazing. I think that's the other thing, that if you can imagine eating more healthfully during the holidays, but it tastes good. So at one of my friends' home, she never changed her menu when we were coming over. She would just ask us to bring our version of it. And so if you're going to a gathering, you know that they're having something like this, then you could bring that, or the host could make it something like this herself. And so what we're going to do now is add this to this sauce. We're just going to put it all in here like this. And as it thickens up and simmers, it's going to cook the veggies down. And then we're going to add some seasonings to it. And we're going to serve this over top of biscuits, Kenny.
Wow.
Can you imagine just dipping your biscuit down in this sauce?
I'm imagining right now. In fact, I'm kicking myself because I can't be there.
This was one of the dishes that we used to give to our patients when we had an outpatient program in Atlanta, Georgia. And they were amazed at how delicious it was, how it did not affect their blood sugars negatively, and how they could eat as much of it as they wanted to eat, which is also something that happens during the holiday. You eat a little more than you normally, but you don't have to worry about it. Then I'm going to season it. I like to always use some kind of bouillon. And on the market today, there's this brand of bouillons that's absolutely delicious. That is by Better Than Bouillon, and I like to use one of those. There are vegan versions of them. The chicken and the beef you have to order online, but you can get a vegetable one, a mushroom one in a regular grocery store. So I'm going to put a little of this bouillon in here. There's already garlic in it, so I don't need to add any more garlic. I'll probably put some pepper in there. I don't use black pepper typically because I work with patients, and sometimes that's irritating to their digestive system, which will happen over the holiday. You eating everything and then get in the car, your belly's hurting. So I try to use something that is a substitute for it instead. And then if you like stuff spicy, you can put spice in there if you want. And then if you want to have a savory flavor, sometimes I'll add a little Bragg's liquid amino and just let that simmer. And we'll have an amazing sauce in a few minutes. So you could add parsley to it too. And then the parsley, I was talking to somebody the other day about being on garlic and how they didn't like the smell of their breath. Parsley takes that smell out of the body. So you could definitely add this, and that will cut down on how your breath would smell when it was over. Okay, so that's going to simmer and thicken up, and we're going to put that over the biscuits.
All right.
So I want to show you how to do the biscuits because you need the biscuits to put this over.
Of course.
One of the things that I have also loved to do is to make the biscuits. And what I've got here is a bowl that already has the flour and sugar and salt and baking powder in it. And what I tell people to do, you don't have to run out and buy a whole bunch of special stuff. What is your recipe in your house? So if you're in the habit of making biscuits, and I think of what we're doing today for Christmas morning, just use the flour that you use and the baking powder and the salt. But a lot of times you will use lard or butter. And so what I do is to take plant-based margarine, and I like Country Crock. And there are several varieties of it in the grocery store that you can use. And you just are going to cut this into the flour and get it until it starts to look like cornmeal. And one of the things that happened when my husband and I first got married was he was doing home health, and he, you know, patients would give him stuff, and he came home one day talking about these biscuits somebody had made for him. Well, Kenny, he didn't know me like you knew me. You were my brother. I'm like, oh no, that's not gonna happen here. He was a little bit confused. So for the next 6 or 8 weeks, I made fresh biscuits every Sunday morning for breakfast because I was trying to outdo whatever he had when he was, you know. I'm like, no, sir, that's not gonna happen. So we kept working it until we got it. And I'm gonna show you a couple of the secrets today that I do and learned as I was on the process so that I can share them with your viewers and listeners. That just makes all the difference in the world. Now, these are traditional biscuits. There is another recipe that you can use, which is called angel biscuits, and that's a Southern recipe that has yeast in it. So it has a different texture, kind of like a cross between a biscuit and a yeast roll. And it stands up better when you use that. It doesn't fall apart quite as much as this one does. Okay, this one is half unbleached all-purpose flour and half whole wheat flour because I want to add some more fiber in. And I like to use white whole wheat flour whenever I'm cooking for a group of people that are not in the habit of eating this way so that they don't lose their mind when they look at it. So you can see this okay?
Yes.
All right, so now what we're going to do is add milk to this. And you can use whatever milk you like in place of traditional dairy milk. I have taken some milk, plant milk, and added lemon juice to it so that it's like buttermilk. So I'm going to add almost all of that to this. And I'm going to stir it so you can see what I'm trying to do, because one of the secrets of making a good light bread is that the dough should be sticky. And if the dough is crumbly and dry, that's how your bread is going to eventually be. So this one is not as sticky as I want it. So I'm going to add some more milk, probably a little over a cup. And then I'm going to show you the secret for rolling out. Because the thing that was my husband, I think, was really enjoying about those biscuits was how flaky they were. And if you've ever eaten a croissant, it has all those amazing layers in it. And they achieve that by layering butter inside of it. And we're not trying to do that, but what we are going to do is show you a method using your hands that can help you layer layers in it. Okay. So now I'm going to put some flour here. And then I'm going to take this dough, and it is sticking to my finger, so that's a good thing. And I'm going to dump the dough out. And then I'm going to put a little more flour on top just so that it doesn't stick to my hands continuously. Now, I'm not going to knead these, but what I'm going to do is fold them, Kenny.
Okay.
Almost like an envelope. And I keep doing that, Kenny, like 4 or 5 times at least. And as I fold them, I'm literally incorporating layers into it so that when it's baked and you go to pull it apart, it pulls apart like an accordion. So that's the third one. I think I'll do it 4 times. And you can make these ahead of time if you want. Freeze them, take them out in the morning, put them in the oven. And then the other thing, especially if you are our age and have grandchildren or are still parenting young children, or just the family is there, you can take half of this dough if you want to, roll it out thinly, put cinnamon and butter on it, and roll it up into cinnamon rolls. And so that's really easy to do. So we're just cutting them like this. And then we're going to put them in the pan and put them in the oven. And it takes about 20, 25 minutes for them to cook all the way through. And they're
Okay.
absolutely beautiful and delicious. How's our
Mm.
time?
We've got about 8 minutes, so we're good.
So we're good. So this is how we're going to do the biscuits. And then the other thing that I want to add to this, because it's going to be so delicious, is a smoothie, Kenny.
Oh my goodness.
Early morning. And what I tried to do was like Christmas colors, which is the red, and to use foods that are in season. We have a son, an adopted son, who's living in South Korea right now. And he told my husband the other day, it's so amazing there. They eat food in season. So if it's strawberry season, you can get strawberries. But if it's not strawberry season, there are no strawberries anywhere. And the best way to eat food is to eat it in season. It's less expensive and the nutritional value is higher. And so what I decided to do was figure out how could I use some of the things that we normally eat for the holidays to make delicious stuff out of. And I came up with this recipe, Kenny. Okay, this is simmering and it's looking really good. We're going to turn it down now. All right. So what I'm going to do now is make this smoothie. And literally, the day after Thanksgiving, a few years ago, I decided I needed to take something with me because I was going to be out for a few hours and I need to have nourishment.
Yeah.
I made homemade cranberry sauce.
Oh.
Fresh cranberries, you put the orange juice in there and or apple juice as your sweetener so you don't have to use a lot of sugar. Let it cook until it's how you want it. And we had some left over. I dumped some of that in the blender. I added strawberries and pineapple. And then I thought one day that I could add a whole apple, which is, of course, in season, excellent cancer fighter. And then I like the flavor of orange that goes with the cranberry. And I love mandarin oranges. So I found some fresh mandarin oranges. It smells so amazing right now. And you just peel that if you want. And if you don't have these, get you some canned ones if you want to. If you can't get the oranges, you can use orange juice. So I'm putting this whole mandarin orange in here. And this is one serving right here. This is what I've used to take me through the day. Then, Kenny, to blend it, I'm going to add some orange juice. And I don't know if you like eggnog or not.
I'm not a big eggnog fan, but I would drink yours.
Listen, for those of us who are plant-based now, and maybe the reason people don't like eggnog is because it's so eggy, but there's so many things on the market now. This is one by Califia Farms, and this is another one by So Delicious. Eddie and I like this one, and it's only available till the end of the year, and we buy like 12, 14 of them, put them in the freezer. So I'm going to put that in here. And then all summer, when I make peach cobbler in the summer, then I can make eggnog ice cream to go on it. Okay, so we're going to blend this up. While it's blended, I'll get you some stuff so that you can see how these biscuits are going to taste with the sauce on top of.
All right.
Anything that's red, that's a little tart, is especially good for the body. That delicious smoothie. I've used the Vitamix so you can blend it as smoothly as you want it to be. You don't have to add any sugar or anything to it because the eggnog and the orange juice, of course, are sweetening it. Then we're going to take these biscuits, and you see those layers in there? And then we pull the biscuits apart. And if you wanted to, you could make them sweeter, and it could be shortcake.
A lot of options there.
It is a lot of options. And I think that we are really beginning to appreciate the fact that healthy can be good too. Okay. So here we go. We've got the sauce, and now we're going to ladle it over the biscuit.
Wow. I got to tell folks, if they're not watching the Facebook live feed or the YouTube live feed at Praise 90.1 FM, you are missing a real treat right now because I'm nowhere near this incredible experience of culinary delights. But I am just blown away by what I'm seeing and so inspired by what I'm seeing. If you're not there, folks, jump on over there and check it out right now. This is absolutely amazing.
So you take the biscuit and you dip it in the sauce. And what I'm trying to do for people during the holidays is create the experience without all the risk associated with it. So
Yeah.
all of this is full of fiber. It's full of garlic and onions and bell peppers and mushrooms, which now some of them actually have vitamin D in them. And you can sit here and eat this with a bowl of grits if that's your thing, if you wanted to. You can make some kind of plant-based egg replacement and do that. Let me see.
Look at you. What do you think? What's the verdict?
It's excellent. It's excellent. Mr. Goodman's gonna be happy when he gets home. And then this smoothie right here.
Yeah, that smoothie looks like it's just delicious.
It's amazing, Kenny. It really is. And I just decided, I'm not gonna throw this away, and I don't want to spend money when I go out in the store. So what can I do? Never thinking that these flavors would be so delicious together. And that's as easy as it is. That would be some of the stuff you could do for breakfast.
Wow.
There are a number of milk products that are on the market that you can use: oat milk, rice milk, cashew milk, coconut milk, whatever you like, to add to tradition. Because traditionally in the South, for Christmas morning, you're talking egg and overnight casserole and coffee and tea and biscuits and ham and all that sort of stuff. And here's a way to lighten it up.
Yeah.
And when you're lightening it up, when you're taking away the things that can cause the challenges, you're adding things that reduce the challenges. And one of the things that we often hear very first from our patients is that the heaviness, we call it the itis, is not there when they eat this way. And so that's why I like to recommend it and experiment with it until I get it right. Because Mr. Goodman will tell me that's not it. Do it again.
Well, listen, Donna, I think Mr. Goodman is one of the luckiest brothers on the face of the earth because he gets to be a part of this kind of experience on a consistent basis and has had that privilege for many, many years now. And of course, I'm always delighted when you're able to share some information with us about how people can take care of their bodies during the holidays. It's not about abusing ourselves or overdoing it. We can do these things in moderation. We can do them smartly so that we can have many more experiences like this. LIfestyle Therapeutix is in effect. You all are interested in engaging people at a variety of different levels. How can people reach out to you and Eddie to find out more about the services that you provide?
You can go to our website, which is LIfestyleTherapeutix.com. You could call the office, which is 256-704-2352. You can follow me on Instagram at Still Shoutin, STILLSHOUTIN. And this marks about a year that I have been doing plant-based meal prep. And you can find that information out on our website, Still Shoutin, STILLSHOUTIN.com.
I follow Donna her social media pages. I haven't quite figured out if it's inspirational or cruel whenever I see some of those offerings that she shows. And I just don't know what to say. You're just an amazing
it's always
person.
Cruel to people who don't know me, Kenny. You, David, y'all know where I am. Make a call. You got the hookup, So it's not cruel to you. It's not.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I really appreciate you taking this time with us today. I hope that as we approach the Christmas holidays, that you will have a wonderful time. And I know that whatever happens around the table will be a wonderful experience. And we look forward to additional conversations with you in the coming year. Please give our regards to Eddie.
I certainly will. Merry Christmas, Kenny.
Merry Christmas to you too, sis. Take care.
All right.
Donna Green-Goodman on the call today, folks. LIfestyle Therapeutix. She's one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. She happens to be not just a dear friend, but she's really like my sister. Donna and I have known each other for over 4 decades. And that is just amazing in itself. And have always felt like a part of her biological family. And I'm so honored that she embraces me as a brother as well. I've ate quite well over the years as a consequence of the green legacy. And I've been very grateful and appreciative of that. We're going to come back in just a moment with our next guest. Of course, this is a very special show today. I'll be back in just a moment. I'm Kenny Anderson at Second Chance. I hope you're having a great afternoon.
Transforming
lives.
You're listening to Second Chance with Kenneth Anderson.
Thank you once again to Donna Green-Goodman, extraordinary nutritionist, a breast cancer survivor, an author, a business owner, and a dear and cherished sister and friend. Thank you for getting us started today for our journey on this Sunday afternoon. Just 15 days until Christmas, folks, and we hope that you are in the countdown spirit. My next guest is Dr. Oliver Davis. He's the father of two daughters and a former three-term councilman for the city of South Bend. He's lived in South Bend for over 30 years. Oliver is a proven leader with a strong results-driven record that includes attracting good-paying jobs to the city of South Bend, promoting animal welfare, fighting for development on the west side of South Bend, and throughout the city, and working for families and children on a very consistent basis. Oliver, of course, has in his legacy Oakwood University / college. And of course, his family is a legacy of Oakwood. We're just so honored to have him on the broadcast this afternoon. Dr. Davis, how are you doing this afternoon?
I am doing well. It's a good to be here, seeing you. It makes me feel like I'm home. I tell you, this time of year I get a little homesick. So seeing you helps me to feel that Southern love that I grew up with in Huntsville. So I went to Oakwood Elementary and Oakwood Academy. So I'm all Oakwood. I'm all Acorn.
Hey, listen, man, in that DNA for sure. You can't shake it, can't deny it. Just embrace it. And you've done it well. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you. It's that time of year where we're celebrating a lot of things. But in this moment, first of all, I want to celebrate your success and talk to you a little bit about the fact that you were recently elected to the South Bend Council, Common Council as an at-large member. You have a storied record as a elected official in your community. You stepped aside for a period of time, and now you're back in the arena. And first of all, I just want to say congratulations on this recent election.
Praise God, and thank you for that. Thank you for that. I have a second chance to serve the people of South Bend. It's good to be here. And I thought about that. I said, hey, a second chance around. So I appreciate your title.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I want to take it back. I know we've had a little chance to talk about this over the years, but I'm always curious when people think about elected office. I'm inspired in one sense. I'm also thinking about what is it that really was the thing that motivated them to put their hat in the arena, because I think very few people really realize what it's like to be in the arena, to offer yourself for elected office, and then to be elected and then serve. What was your motivating factor so many years ago? Talk to us a little bit about that part of the journey first.
I first started running for office when I was in elementary school at Oakwood Elementary, and then I ran at Oakwood Academy for class president and lost ninth grade, but then I ran for class senator. That office alone in ninth grade changed my world, because it gave me the opportunity to represent my class at the student government level. And I do remember my first issue I ever brought to the student government, and that was the ninth grade guys are getting beat up in the bathroom. We are tired of getting initiated by all the juniors and the seniors. And I remember the seniors, I was the only freshman there. They all cracked up laughing because they were the ones doing it. And I said, I'm here on behalf of the ninth grade that this must stop. I tell you, never forget your first issue. And so,
oh my goodness.
So from high school all the way through, I ran for student body president, and that opportunity allowed me to be on the Huntsville Youth Council in Huntsville, Alabama. And it was the first time that I got a chance to see city council people up front. There was a council person that we worked with. His name was Ernest Kaufman back in the day. And so he came and worked with us on the Huntsville Youth Council. And it was leadership of all of the different high school presidents, from Grissom High to the old Johnson High School and all the others that came together. And it was nice to meet downtown. We went to the Huntsville City Council area and we met there. And I was like, wow. So I really envisioned myself to be in leadership in Huntsville. And then I met with one of my mentors, Miss Chessie Harris, who was over the Harris home, rest her soul. And she told me it was time to leave Huntsville and move north. And I said, what? and she encouraged me and taught me a lot. And she encouraged me to move to the Ohio State University. And I was planning to stay there 1 year and then come back to Huntsville. And then I married somebody from the Midwest. And I said, I'll stay in Indiana for 1 year. It's been 31 years. And so the dream of I thought it was going to lead out and to develop in Huntsville, developed up here in South Bend, Indiana. But it all started back in Alabama. As my parents and my mentors there got me very involved. My first campaign was in 1988 when Pastor Elder Ward invited me to his office and 3 other young people to work on former Commissioner Prince Prayer's campaign, because his whole goal, it was said it was time to start integrating our commissioners, our city councils. And so he invited me to come, had that T-shirt. I stood out at the old Donovan's Mall. That was my first actual campaign to be in 1988. Wow. And he called me up there and said, hey, this is your ministry. We talked about it. And it really enlightened me to say, this is going to be something that's going to be down my road. And here in 1980, it's 12 plus what? That's all these years now that has been here. That's a lot of years, that 35 years ago.
Yeah, that is a long time ago indeed.
But that started.
Yeah, listen, I think about that journey, and that's really fascinating to me at so many different levels, because I do work with a lot of elected officials. I talk to a lot of young people who might be interested in offering themselves for service, seasoned veterans, just a whole range of individuals who are in that scope, males, females, et cetera, et cetera. I'm very interested in the experience then versus the experience now. You're back in that particular skin one more time. And what is it that you have learned throughout this journey that you think will be most effective in informing your journey now?
I went to Walmart a few years ago and I was trying to dye my hair. I bought something to dye my hair. I bought the wrong product. It burnt my skin. It was all this other foolishness. I went to my barber, sat there. They all laughed at me in the barber shop when I told them what happened. And my barber said, appreciate your age, act your age, and be thankful for your gray hair. And I sat there. She sat there and lectured me on how that was a foolish decision. And I said to myself, you know what? There's a reason why God has allowed me to get to this age. I've won and I've lost. I've had success. I've given the acceptance speech, and I have given the speech where I lost. And really, back in my earlier days, it helped me because I ran for class president, lost that, ran for Senate, and won that, ran for chaplain at Oakwood Academy, lost that, ran for vice president and president, got to USM, ran for off-campus senator, lost that, ran for senator the next year, got that, ran for vice president USM, lost that, came up here. I lost my first 3 races. I lost in 96, I lost in 2002, special election lost in 2003, and we won in 2007 by 18 votes. We were blessed to win 7 and 11 and 15, ran for mayor, lost that one, and came back. So when you think about the title of your whole program, Second Chance, I really have had 3rd, 4th, and 5th chances because, sometimes when you're breaking ground, you have to have more than one chance to break that ground. I was the first African-American to win my district on the southwest side of town. It was Polish, Hungarian, African, a little bit of African American, but it was more Polish, Hungarian. And people told me back in 2003 and 2007 that I'll never win. In fact, in those years, this is pre-President Obama years, okay? And so therefore, to have my tone and my complexion to sit up there and to say, you would never win, don't put your picture on things. Now everybody in town knows me as the bow tie guy. And so when they see me with my bow tie rebranded, the bow tie means we're bringing the whole community together. We tying it all together. We tying all the twists. We have 6 districts and 3 at large. So we tie you, whether you're the 1st district, 2nd district, 3rd district, 4th district, 5th district, 6th district, whether you're Seventh Adventist, Catholic, Baptist, gay, straight, go to church, don't go to church. The bow tie ties you all in and we represent you. Okay. But just seeing how the progress of somebody here in this red state, but this Democratic city told me that I was never going to win. And I remember when I heard those votes, I told my mentor, I said, they're never going to vote for me. He said, why? He said, because I'm black. He said, how long are you going to be black? He said, if that's your excuse, you will never win. You got to go out there with people. I had a white in my circle. I tell everybody in every class I teach, I tell them to look at their cell phone. And I said, go to the contacts in your cell phone. If your cell phone contacts only have people in your contact that look like you, think like you, act like you, worship like you, or the same kind of orientation like you, on the political side like you, then you're too small to reach your crowd.
Yeah, that's right.
And in my earlier days, that's really what it was. And I went to a neighbor's house one time and I opened it. I almost walked up when I saw they were Polish. And they said, oh, you are a neighbor. And I'm like, for real? And that was very impressive to me when this last election out there to move from a district to at large for the whole to represent the whole city. It was amazing to have people from all backgrounds say, "Hey, we got your bow tie, we got your bow tie, we got you." I mean, older people with gray hair, white, Polish, Hungarian, African American, Hispanic. We got your bow tie. We voted. Come on. And
Well, listen.
You can sit there and say that, but then when you go see the results and they were telling the truth,
it
just warms your heart.
Yeah, and it's got to be an interesting thing too, as part of the backstory, because you could not have served once before and done so in a way that was not respected by the people, and then expect to have an opportunity again, even though people will give people grace and be redemptive and other kinds of things. The fact that people, are embracing you as bow tie, they know you, they know your footprint, they know something about your integrity and your representation skills. And that, of course, is a unifying force oftentimes when you're in a political arena. And that's got to be pretty gratifying to you to have that kind of experience.
My goal was to make myself accessible to the people. When I did my debates, it said, Dr. Davis, you can present. I said, well, I'm ready. And here's my cell phone number, 574-876-6938. People like, you give your cell phone number? I said, yeah, they're my bosses. The people are my bosses. Then you didn't know how to reach me. Yeah. And people call me. They know where I live. I've lived in the same neighborhood, same area. They come on, and sometimes it's a pleasant conversation. Sometimes they're fussing at me. Can't believe you did that. I understand. And then I try to explain it. I go to the stores. You go down one aisle, I'm going to put you out. And then they go down the next one. You're such a wonderful guy. So I tell people, I've been to heaven and I've been to hell and I've been to purgatory, quote unquote, all in the same time I watch, I go shopping. And it's good. It keeps you balanced. If you always have successes, you can get a little cocky. You've always had depression and lose, then you're down. But if you've had a balance, then that's life.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective too. And I want to add to that the question of the current political landscape, which sometimes is extremely polarizing, a lot of hostility, a lot of aggressiveness, a lot of tribalism in terms of people taking sides and being very resilient in their belief that only one way is the right way, or only one kind of person matters in that context. And that is troubling at so many different levels. I wonder what your perspective is as an elective official, and how you kind of indicated a little bit about how you approach that landscape, but what is your sense of what that landscape is like as a person who's on the inside of the process?
When you run for office, I understand why you can portray as a party. But once you are elected, you have to serve the people. And one of the most challenging things about being in office, I kind of can see the numbers and understand what sides of town voted for me and what sides of town didn't vote for me. I can see the financial reports, but it's still my ethical and even I say my spiritual calling to fight for people who did not even want me, who voted against me, because I still got to represent everybody. And that's not always easy to do. But that's the calling. And I think that calling, people don't look at political work sometimes as a calling. People would tell me, as a Seventh-day Adventist, how can you do all these kind of things? May have to do things on the Sabbath and all that. I said it because it's my calling. It's my ministry. I go back to Peter and I go back to Paul. And Peter had more of exclusive ministry. Okay. Paul had a wider ministry. And I talked to Elder Ward way back in 1991 in Huntsville when we were trying to figure out what was my calling. Should I go to the seminary or should I go into social work where I have my degrees? I have a BS, Bachelor of Social Work, Master of Social Work, Doctor of Social Work. And he said, after we sat there in his office one night, we stayed at about 11 o'clock. He said, I watched you. He said, you go ahead and get your master's in social work and stay close to your church because you have a community ministry. And I've always believed that. I was told that back in 1991 by him. We both sat there. And he saw that when he, like I said, when he called me to work with Commissioner Prince Prayer's campaign. And I've always believed that's a ministry because he used to invite different people, different political people to the church, whether they're Democrat, Republican, black and white. They would have something on Sabbath day. And some people said, that's not right. This is wrong. Why is other work doing that? But I sat there and I looked at when I came here, some of the ministers, I'm not too far away from my seminary, and they were saying, well, you shouldn't do that. But then I thought about those days. We have to include everybody. I have to sit down with my Republican colleagues. I got to sit down with my Democratic colleagues, and I got them on speed dial. I said, "What y'all think of that? Yeah, we know you come in on the meeting, and we disagree with you on that, but we like you on that." You know, and they told me, they said, one thing about it, you give everybody a tough time, because on my zoning board that I was on, I had 7 questions for everybody. My 7 questions from my mentor. And I said, okay, I got my 7 questions. Number 1, have you talked to your neighbors? Have you talked to the neighbors about the development plan? Well, we're going to move forward with this project. It's going to bring 7 million. Have you talked to your neighbors? We're going to delay this plan for 30 days. You can't do that. Yes, I can. All in favor, say aye. So that was my number 1 question. And I went down everything. One time I had to make a presentation on behalf of the council in front of the same zoning board. And they said, do we have all of our 7 questions for Councilman Davis? And I answered my questions, whether you're Democrat, Republican, whether you're rich or poor. Those are my 7 questions. Okay. And because that was when people saw that you were fair, they appreciated that. They wanted to know, are you fair? Are you just fighting for one group of people? And the thing about it, I believe in equity more than I believe in quality. Equity, because some people, my job is to help. Some people start here, other people start there. And I have to see where they start to help lift them up. Equality, if you only got 5 and I got 7, and I give both of y'all 3, you still ahead. And so my job is to try to balance it out. And at large, I have to have the wider view to look over the whole thing. In the district, I could fight for the district. Now, at the at large, I got to look at everybody and try to pull it together that way.
Yeah,
So
I think that
makes me a member of everybody's church, everybody's organization, everybody's group. I just can't cater to one. I go to church on Friday, Saturday, and Sundays and meet different people.
Yeah, you have a worldview that I think is essential to success, not just in the arena that you're in. I think essential to our success as human beings, because so many times we allow categories and certain distinctions and designations to limit our ability to just simply connect with people at the human level, heart to heart, person to person. The issues that many people face are similar in some ways, and they're vastly different in other ways. And I was just sharing the other day about how I think empathy is such an important and essential quality of leadership, that if you as a leader can't walk in a way that you are able to see other people's circumstances from their perspective, not yours, not coming to them with the answer or the resources or anything in that situation for that matter, that you are really failing yourself as a leader in that context. Because a real leader, an effective leader, is able to step back for a moment and see other people's circumstances from the viewpoint and the vantage point that they have. So the things you're saying, I think, are extremely critical and extremely important in that context. How long is your current term?
It would be 4 years.
Right.
I served 12 years before. I served 3-4-year terms before, and currently, I'm the longest African American male that's ever served on the council here now. And so, once I start, there's one other guy. Once I start January 1, I'll be the longest one. There's a African American woman who's longer than that. So haven't reached Councilman Showers back in the day. when he was here, bless his soul and rest his soul. But the bottom line is, I appreciate the longevity, because you can see issues of how they were back then, see some things that now, and you can put them in context of where you want to go in the future. And it gives you some clarity with that. So,
well, I want to ask you about that. What are your issues that you're focused on in this present moment?
The key issue for me is the environmental justice. This is old bellwether town. A lot of Studebaker made the city great back in the 1800s. This city was started in 1828, 1832, and Studebaker really took it to another level. And then in 1963, it crashed and moved on. Because this was a city like Detroit and many others. And so we still have a lot of the old properties and a lot of these old buildings that are still there from yesteryear that we call brownfield areas that we need to get rid of, and to develop those areas so we can have new industry come in, and also to clean up our city from those kind of standpoints and more beautification. Because when you really help to beautify a city, it helps to not only make people feel good and your own mental health. I'm a therapist like you, and helps with that kind of awesome, but it also helps with dealing with crime reduction. Because when you have a more attractive area, it helps the whole nature to deal with better thinking, better process from a whole ecological standpoint. From that, and you have to do that. So I think you got to start with those kind of issues of environmental justice. And oftentimes, the places that have not been fixed up are in more poorer areas. And we have to do a better job to do that.
Yeah, representation matters. Talk to me a little bit about that in the context of your role as at-large council person, and also coalition building, collaboration, and other kinds of community engagement strategies that are very productive, I think, in terms of being effective in the long term. What are your thoughts about those kinds of things?
I eat out a lot. And I eat because I do that because so people can have access to me.
Yeah, the great equalizer, right?
Yeah. And I go out, I know how to cut my own hair, but once I started running for office, I would go to the barber shops. Okay. I can put my clothes in a bag, go to the places where you can get them cleaned and everything else. You make yourself accessible to the people so they can talk to you.
Yeah.
You say, you have a minute? You have a minute? Come on over. Can you have a minute? You come on over. And so that to me has been very successful because a lot of people do not feel comfortable enough to go downtown and meet me in my office downtown. But they will talk to you when you're in the restaurants. They will talk to you when you're in the barbershops. They will talk to you when you're in the stores. They will talk to you when you're in places. So many times I go right over to different places and I just walk around. You got a minute? You got a minute? And so that makes me accessible to the people of the coalition. So if you have the people coalitions, and then you have to make yourself accessible to the principals, the administrations that are here, whether it's the school systems, the universities, the local people here, you get a chance to know them, meet with them, take them out to eat, meet with them, go out, and get a chance to really understand their world. One of the key things I worked on when I was on the council before was the city cemetery. And I believe in the fact that in order to lead the current people, you have to understand the people who were there before you. And when you understand the city cemetery of South Bend, you can look at it, you see, if you Google my name, Oliver Davis, South Bend City Cemetery, I went out there and helped to build up the cemetery because our cemetery was an integrated cemetery in the 1800s, which is a rare. And that tells you something about this part of this state of Indiana, because we were more in Michigan than Indiana. If you go southern part, you go 50 miles down from here, you will see more of an Indiana flavor. When you up here, we have more of a Michigan flavor. And you go to the cemetery will help you to understand that. And it gives you clarity. So you have to understand the past and those who were there. Those people who are in our city cemetery, many of our streets are named after them. Many of our buildings are named after them. So it gives you clarity of why that street is just that street. Why Sparkman is Sparkman. A lot of people just see the word Sparkman. They don't realize that's Senator Sparkman. That was the senator there. That's why they call the Sparkman senators, because he was the senator. There is a reason why our streets in Huntsville are named certain streets, because they're named after people to help develop that. And Senator Sparkman was one of the ones who helped bring in NASA to Huntsville, Alabama. So you have to understand why the street is named what it is. And then when you do that, even in South Bend, why certain streets, it gives you the history of the people. And like Nehemiah in the Bible, who surveyed the city and saw where the holes were in the wall, he was able to rebuild the wall. And there are walls in our city that need to be rebuilt. And you have to understand the history of them so you can rebuild them.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. We've got just about 5 minutes left. You're talking to someone, a younger person, who is interested in getting into the elected official arena for the first time. What would you say to that person? And then you as a veteran, what would you say to another veteran who is still perhaps serving or has an advanced stage of service?
One of the things I would say to young people, I would introduce them to be a part of my campaign. Get involved. Watching, that's how I started. Sitting there, I didn't know what I was doing when I was working on Councilman Prayer's campaign. I asked her, well, what am I to do? He said, do what they tell you to do. Pass out this. Vote for Councilman Prayer. Vote for him. I don't know what I was doing. Okay. But you start somewhere. And from those days over at Donovan's Mall, sitting out there in that hot day when we were out there doing all that, had my t-shirt on, from that to where I am now, taught me a lot. So you start somewhere. Get a chance to meet your leaders and talk to people. And I think what I would say to the older person, stay up with technology. Because when I first ran, you could do things on this. Now there's a whole thing called the Voter Access Network. One of the reasons why President Obama was able to defeat Senator McCain is because his team had a more technological advantage. Back in 2008, they said, raise your phone, text everybody that you're here in Denver. People had not seen that before, that you would text everything. So how do you utilize texting and other social media now to get your message out? Especially in the world now where national news has taken over. You turn to your local news, most of your local news is now your national news. We almost watch the same news in Alabama as we watch in Indiana. We have to continue to promote the local news, because local news is where your city councils, your school boards, your county councils are making these decisions. But so much of that has now been nationalized. Even in the state of Alabama, it's alabama.com. Huntsville Times is gone.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the local news is not even available. You have to watch more of your TV news. And so that's a danger for local city councils and local people, because you don't know what a lot of people are doing. And then they have a challenge to getting their message out. So we are in a nationalized news situation, and about Trump, about Biden, about the national. Oh, that's important. But what about the local news?
Yeah.
That is something that is missing now as I go back, this second chance that I have. That's the challenge that I have to figure out. How do I get my message across now in a world where we have nationalized our news after COVID more so than any other time, than when I was on there before, when our local news cared a lot about the city council. Now they can make a lot of decisions and nobody even knows.
Yeah. That is such an important point. It's something I'm always stressing to people too, that a lot of things are not done in darkness. It's just that people are not connected. They're not knowledgeable. They're not educated. They're not aware. They're not taking advantage of the places and the spaces where the information is being shared. And they're not taking advantage of something you said at the very beginning of this, that they're not taking advantage of just getting involved. Even if you want to just come into that space and just sit down at the feet of somebody who has information and education, learn from them. It's a very, very important thing to do. Dr. Oliver Davis Jr. is a South Bend Common Council member at large. Yeah. And we're so honored to have him on this platform today to just pick his brain a little bit about his journey, his insight, and also what his plans are moving forward. It won't be the last time that we have him on. We want to kind of keep up with you along the way and gain from your valuable wisdom and insight. Of course, you are a native son, and we have great respect for you here as well. Tell us how people can stay connected to you. I know you have a social media presence, you may have a website, but how can people take a peek at what's going on with?
I'm on Facebook. I stay on Facebook right now. I will be launching me a website too, because I've been talking to our council members. How do we have to bring our own news down to the people? So once I do that, I'll make sure that you're aware of that, so we can stay in touch from those standpoints. And before I close, I would like to just again thank God for my dad, who is still alive. Dr. Oliver Davis is 93. My dad swore me in the first time. Yeah. And one of the things I truly believed in him, and that is he sent me monies when I lost on my campaigns. And we were in that last campaign, and when I won back in 2007, we were out of money. My dad sent me his credit card. It was a blessing to be named after him, because I could use his credit card. And we won that by 18 votes. That's got me over the hump. And I always appreciate the fact that here's a person who had to sit on the back of the bus, and now he got a chance to swear his son in, and I became chairperson and president of our transportation here, and I'm aboard here. So, just seeing in one generation, from having to go from the back of the bus to being the president of our local transportation board, I was the first African-American to do that because of Daddy's credit card and my mother, who's resting in her grave. So I thank God for them and my family, and for you and others who were my mentors there in Huntsville, who helped bless me and strengthen me now. So I got a book of a lot of pictures over here of people who live up and down my street. And when I get homesick, I just turn the pictures and I can hear them saying, "Keep on fighting, guy. Keep on fighting."
Well, I'm so happy that you acknowledge your dad, who, of course, is a legend in our minds. And all of us that know Dr. Davis and knew your mom, Dr. Davis, have great respect for their legacies and what they poured into their children, and certainly the legacy that they've left that many of us got a chance to witness and continue to be inspired by. Dr. Davis, continue to keeping on, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Blessings to you. May God bless you. Thank you
so much. We appreciate you.
You're welcome. Appreciate you too. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. Dr. Oliver Davis Jr., we appreciate the conversation, having that conversation with him today. Dr. Davis, South Bend Common Council member at large, recently elected to that position. He's been 3-term council member, and so he's back at it again. I love the fact, in fact, I didn't get a chance to say this to him, but one of the things that I admired in him is he was one of the first people I knew personally who was an elected official, and I mean, that was many years ago. And I was like, wow, That's pretty impressive, And I know that a lot of the work that I've done in the public sphere, even though I'm not an elected official, I'm an appointed official. I've always been interested in what happens in those spaces. And so I honor Dr. Davis Jr. today with this opportunity to have this conversation. We're going to come back in just a few moments with more of the broadcast. And it is important for us to let you know that we will be right back in just a moment. I'm Kenny Anderson. It's Second Chance. I hope that you're having a great rest of the day.
This is WJOU 90.1 FM Huntsville, serving the Tennessee Valley, a broadcast service of Oakwood University, on the web at wjou.org.
Transforming lives.
You're listening to Second Chance with Kenneth Anderson.
Waterworks was started in the Huntsville, Alabama area in 2004 by Grammy-winning producer Kelvin Wooten. After working for many years with established artists, Kelvin had a vision to create a company and music studio that could offer unknown, undiscovered artists a place to be creative. Through the formation of the company, he created a launch pad that allowed a variety of independent artists to share their unique music with the world. In 2018, Kelvin launched the sale of his music sample creations. It is a pleasure this afternoon to welcome to the Second Chance broadcast my bro, Kelvin Wooten. What's happening, dude?
My bro, Kenny Anderson. How you doing, man? I'm doing great.
I'm doing good, man. It's always good to see you. And every time it seems like I talk to you, I'm reminded about your greatness because you're sitting you're sitting there and you've got things behind you that look really valuable and significant and certainly reflect the great journey that you've been on. We'll talk a little bit about that with you today. But thank you for taking a little bit of time to talk with me today.
Well, thanks, Kenny. God is always great and greatly to be praised. And it is good to see you and good to be seen and not viewed.
Absolutely, because there's, Lord knows, there's too much of that happening for sure.
Yes.
A lot to be grateful for in this space, and there's a lot of stuff happening in your world all the time. I'm always very excited to follow you on social media channels and just see so many different things developing. Your hand is in so many things. You're just making, it's the basketball analogy, touches, as we call it in basketball, when, there's this player that's kind of making some things happening on the court on a consistent basis. That's kind of how I think about you in the music industry, because you definitely are making some things happen. Let me not bury the headline. Congratulations on the Grammy Award that you won recently, 2022. Jasmine Sullivan's Hoax Tales. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah. For this program, let's let it be that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I did kind of. I was kind of thinking, how am I going to do that? And I think I got by that.
You did pretty good.
Yes, sir. Listen, man, congratulations on that. That had to be a pretty big deal. I know you were talking about being at the Grammys and the potential of you winning was an amazing thing. What was that experience like for you?
It's great, Kenny. I think the Grammy, the Recording Academy is an institution where you're voted and you get awards. You get awarded for things from your peers. This is not like a People's Choice thing where people are voting a popularity contest, but it's more about for those that are in the industry, those that are of that craft and art, they are the ones judging and voting on it. So it's a good feeling to know at that level, to be voted and counted. I'm not doing anything differently and doing anything new than I've been doing for 30 plus years doing music. It's just great to be recognized at that level though, for sure.
Yeah, it is a significant accomplishment for sure. And I think you just said something that's very meaningful to me, because a lot of people don't necessarily acknowledge people throughout the journey. I'm not saying that's happened to you, but it's like sometimes when an award is made, it's like, oh, what a significant thing, but they don't realize the grind. They don't see you in the game. They don't
Yeah.
see the many years of effort being invested in what you do and what you love to do. You're not trying to do something, you're doing what you love to do.
Yeah.
And we've had a chance to talk about that before on my podcast about your journey, which
Mhm.
I thought was pretty amazing journey. I want to celebrate in this moment, if you will, with me, our Alabama A&M Bulldogs that just recently
Yeah.
led the marching maroon and white, that led the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, the first HBCU to do that. What was that experience like for you to be able to see that happening?
Well, also too, to add to that, Kenny, the current director of the band was also a student.
That's right.
And it just lets you know, I was once a student of the Marching Maroon and White. I was a member. I played tuba in that band. I also arranged, which that band also gave me my start in arranging music for horns, and which led to me doing work with Earth, Wind and Fire. So it was just great to see that for Carlton Wright.
Mm.
I know that for him, man, I know that just had to be a great victory. It's like, hey, I started in this band, and now we're here on this big stage, performing and leading out such a great event. I saw him performing with John Baptiste, and it was just great.
Yeah.
It was just awesome to see. And everybody was celebrating it all over social media too. So
That's right. That's
yeah.
right. And it was just great to see that happening, knowing that Alabama A&M University is so near and dear to so many of us here.
Yeah.
And then of course it was kind of surreal for me. I grew up in New York, going to the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And then here on the 97th parade, here's my alma mater leading the band and leading the way, and just an amazing experience. I know they had so many other things going on while they were up there that were really significant, really an experience to remember. And again, like you said, shout out to brother Carlton, who has done an amazing job with that group in terms of his vision, the investment that he's put into that process.
Yes. Yeah. He's had me over and to talk to the students. I think last year, right after the agreement win, just to inspire them, and you could just see that they were eating it all up, but they have been in an environment where they've been poured into. You can tell that it was very, very fertile ground over there to plant seeds and inspire those young people. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kelvin, you're steeped in the music industry. You're a veteran. You've been there a long time. You choose to make Huntsville your home. Tell me about that, and talk to me a little bit about the music scene here in Huntsville in North Alabama.
Yeah, well, as I think about it, as I get older, it's just like, it's a lot easier to stay where you are than to try to move around. I think I used to try to make it a lot deeper than what it is, what it actually was. And I think, I am a person that I think roots are very important to me. And those things that keep you at a place where you can see things for what they really are. Huntsville has always been that for me. One thing I would say, being in Huntsville, I was always very, very active in the church scene, in the gospel music arena. And so those are actually a lot in my daughter being here, growing her up and raising her to be an adult. Those are some key things that kept me in the area. But I realize, now it's like, I see things like with me, like we just mentioned with Carlton Wright, you can be here and go anywhere. Everyone has an origin story from where they started. So I don't make Huntsville a small place in a big pond. It is in terms of the industry, but in terms of what you can get here as far as character building and integrity and all those things, those things are intangibles that you need to sustain a career. So that's why I just chose to make Huntsville home.
You've talked to me before about your relationship with Raphael Sadiq of Tony fame.
Yeah.
You recently had a pretty extraordinary experience that you posted on social media as well with them brothers who are out on tour. Tell me about that, man. That was dope.
Yeah. So, I told Raphael, I said, if you come anywhere within a certain radius, all of our experience of my relationship was always going to go see him. But he never was really in that radius of where I was. And I said, hey, if you're in a radius, I'm going to pull up on you. Just beware. So they came to Nashville and they did a show at the Ryman. So I texted him. I said, hey, I got me and my family tickets. We're going to come see you guys. He said, oh no, you're not just coming. You're going to you're gonna bring that tuba, and we're gonna do our song. So I shined it, I polished it up a little bit. I said, boy, it's been a minute since I played this thing on any particular stage like that. So, and what was crazy, consequently, subsequently, I hit him up again. Me and my wife were on our anniversary trip. We went to San Francisco, went to the Bay, and wasn't thinking that they were ending their tour and their show was in San Francisco. And I hit him again. It's like, hey, I don't have a tuba this time, but they found one like minutes before we performed.
Wow.
So I did it. We did the whole thing over again. So it was a full circle, just to see that was the stuff that I grew up on. That was those were the guys I was watching in terms of starting a music career in that space. And so just and connect with him as a friend. He's like an uncle to me, or big brother, so to speak. I've been knowing him for, man, all going on 30 years now. So
yeah. Well, I definitely, brought me back, because the Tonys were definitely, I think you called yourself the fourth Tony or something.
Oh yeah. And I say that publicly because they know that too. They already know. I had the outfits and all that. I said, man, it was one of those things. If some stay ready or get ready was a person, I was that person. I was ready for the call, didn't know I was going to get it, and I got it. It was crazy. It happened with I was with a rest in peace Spanky, Chalmers Alford, at his house when Raphael Sadiq called. And I just happened to be there, at that appointed time, and got the call and went on the road with them, and here we are, some years later,
Yeah, rest is history for sure.
Yeah.
I am very excited, as I know you are. It's December 10th, Sunday, December 10th. In 5 days, something is dropping that's pretty significant in your world. A project called Rest. Now, my background is mental health, and I read your posts about this project, and I got excited because I said, brother, listen, as much as we can promote self-care and whatever measures we can do that and do it in ways that can connect with people, that's got to be powerful. Talk to me about this project called Rest.
So Rest was, it's a project that I've been working on. I started working on it in the summer, and just was kind of weird on hitting the button on releasing it or letting people know about it. It's just always, I'm that way, I think, with everything that I do. I'm always second guessing it. And but just here throughout, I've talking to people in the industry, people have been losing loved ones, people have been dealing with anxiety, people have been dealing with depression, and a lot of other mental health challenges. And I just was like, maybe this is timely. I'm just going to go ahead and hit the button on this and let everyone know that this is coming out. It was something for me because a lot of the music that I listen to outside of the music that I work on is mainly, meditation music, prayer music. I do guided meditations, Christian guided meditations as much as I possibly can, just because it's just so much going on in the industry that we work in. There's so many changes, with technology, the demands of the industry, it's kind of hard to keep up with. And when I was younger, I think I had that energy to go with it, But as I got older, and as you get older and you're looking back at past accomplishments, as a musician that's, I guess, seasoned, you look back at that stuff and you say, am I as good as I was then, or am I still relevant? And that kind of hits a lot of people in my age bracket that are in the industry. So I kind of made this project for us, for those people, to just the music that we listen to when we're not working on music, when it's a time for self-reflection, it's a time for just to kind of just deal with yourself and be alone sometimes and just rest. And I've learned that I've known this, but I've learned it more, that rest is a part of the grind just as much as the grind is, how much time we stop and evaluate or just do nothing or just be, we're human beings. We're not human doings. At some point we have to rest. And I honestly feel that God has built that into a 7-day week. I adhere to that, and I've done that for years, and it's been, but I know rest is even beyond that. It's just taking the time to just kind of stop the work and just and just I guess collect information other ways. You know, you can't collect the information of what you're trying to inspire people with if you're always doing it. You have to stop and be inspired yourself. You know, so
Yeah.
sometimes it's your family, friends, and all sorts of things. Just got to pause, man, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, Kelvin, one of the things that you're talking about really resonates with me in a powerful way because it is important for all of us to think about ourselves personally and what that rest concept means. It's going to mean different things for different people,
Yeah,
and how we choose to engage in that rest is so vitally important to our success. The rest is both literal as well as figurative,
yeah,
and the literal part of that includes, as you said, I think a huge emphasis on the spiritual dimensions of that.
yes,
However, people choose to define that spiritual dimension. Some people will call that God and some kind of relationship with the church. Some
mhm,
people will call that something related to maybe some non traditional or unconventional way that
mhm.
people may need to unplug or release or disconnect and detach from certain kinds of things, and we all need that. And isn't it amazing sometimes how we justify doing and doing and doing? As you said, we're not doers in
Yeah,
that context. We justify doing it, and then we express guilt when we're just chilling out, taking it easy, relaxing, and not doing anything. And that
ex-
is so valuable to our
well,
essential human nature as much as anything else. And it sounds like what you're promoting through this project is that message. I saw you say it's not just about the music, it's about how you interpret this experience and this space that you might be in.
exactly. You know, Kenny, I have been a musician probably more. I started being a musician when I was 12, and that musical journey actually started in church. And I will say, that for me, resting means that I give so much service, I guess, to church, that it became a chore. It became a
Mm,
lot of work for me. And
mm,
so at this season in my life, I've been resting from that. I don't know, so I'm a kind of now that it's not I'm doing it on a regular basis where I'm in church every week playing. I had to retire from that back in 2021. And
mhm.
so it became the work that was putting the load on me. I realized, and so I go through the whole week doing music, and then I'm on the weekend playing in churches. It never stopped,
Mm,
you know. And I just had to, and I had to say, I had to ask myself, is my service to the church or is my service to God? And I really had to ask, and I don't think that's for every musician. I think that's for where I am in my life personally. And so
mhm.
I took that I take it as a note to say, let me just pause for a second and just see what my relationship with God looks like when I'm not serving in this capacity. And I realized that my relationship with God wasn't as tight as it needed to be
Mm,
because I was always at constant work. I was
mm,
always at constant doing, 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 doing. So my experience at church was based on how much music I knew and how did I know all the songs and did I know all the cues, and less about being there in the moment. So now
mm.
when I experience church, I'm there and I'm in the moment. I'm able to worship in a more fulfilling way for
Yeah,
myself. And that may change, and that may change over time, but that's just where I am now.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
listen, I think it's a valuable place to be right now. Where will people be able to connect with rest?
So on December 15th, it'll launch on all streaming platforms. By all means, you can go to my website. If you go, that'll be a central hub to point you to all the directions. But right now, you can pre-order it on iTunes. You can pre-order it on Amazon. You can, and you can also pre-save it on Spotify. So when December 15th hits, it'll be there. I've been in touch with some local massage and therapies here. They're going to be playing rest in their places too. So I'm looking, so when you go in and if you may hear some local music from a local musician. Yeah.
That sounds terrific. It sounds like the gift that will keep on giving some people if they take full advantage of it. Speaking of the gift that keeps on giving, it is Christmas season. Today's December 10th. We're just 15 days away from the big day, as a lot of people want to think about it. What does this time of year mean to you?
Rest, brother. Rest. I look forward to it. And I try not to get caught up in the hype of all the shopping and all of that. That doesn't mean I don't do it, but I try not to get caught up into it, and just be thankful for the family that I have. My daughter, my wife, my mom and dad, all the aunties, uncles, and cousins. And just being thankful to have them, and just being thankful too to be able to share a gift, of myself to my community. Through, whether it be through music, whether it be through whatever it is. I'm just thankful. And I try to, during this time, try to just really reset before the new year starts. So that's what Christmas time, the holiday times looks like for me. So
Yeah, well, that sounds pretty similar to the way I think about it. I'm always looking forward to a few days off and just not doing anything.
yeah.
People travel, and that's certainly a fine thing. I've done that over the years, but I am very, very confident in saying to people now, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to
Yeah.
go to the house.
Mhm.
I'll visit the mailbox a few days, but I'm just going to get a lot of rest and relaxation and definitely recharge and reset in anticipation of the new year. Thinking about the new year, though, I do have to ask you, are there any major projects in the works? Anything that you're thinking about?
Yeah. I want to continue with a lot of these projects that I'm doing for myself. I'm getting more confident in releasing my own music through the Wooderworks brand. So look for a book that will be subsequent to this Rest project.
Yeah.
Just to kind of a guided kind of meditation or just practice for musicians. I by no means think that I'm an expert in it, but I got a few years of knowing the ups and downs when it comes to this industry. So I just want to help someone get from level 3 to level 5, even though I'm at level 6. I don't think you have to be at level 10 to pull someone up. So I'm looking forward to that kind of stuff, and just more and more music in the new year for sure.
Well, whatever it is, I know it's going to be righteous because you are a brother that definitely keeps it real. And I always appreciate your graciousness in allowing me to spend time with you and just find out about what's going on with you. It's always an inspiration. If people want to learn more about what Kelvin Wooten is doing, tell us about your website, tell us about your social media presence.
Okay, so if you want to go to a central hub for me, it's wooderworks.com, and that's WOODAWORX.com. You can follow me on Instagram, and that's Kelvin_Wooten, and Wooten is spelled WU10. Facebook, I'm Kelvin Wooten with 2 O's. So I'm pretty easy to find, and I usually try to respond to everyone that reaches out.
All right, Kelvin, thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to our next time to chat. And if it's not before Christmas, I hope you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thanks. Same to you, Kenny. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, brother. Take care.
All right. You too.
Always good chopping up with Kelvin Wooten, my brother, right here, based in Huntsville, doing some major things in the music industry as he has done for so many years now. And I just like to catch up with him from time to time to find out what's going on and also to share the information that he has to share on his platform that is always very valuable and always very beneficial. I'm going to come back in just a moment and introduce my final guest for the broadcast today. I'm Kenny Anderson at Second Chance, and I hope you're having an amazing day.
Transforming lives.
You're listening to Second Chance with Kenneth Anderson.
Welcome back to the broadcast. I hope that you enjoyed my conversation with Kelvin Wooten. Brenda Wood is a veteran broadcast journalist whose career spans 40 years reporting and anchoring television news in the South. Brenda's journalistic achievements have earned her numerous awards, including 20 Emmys from the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences Southeast region, 6 awards from the National Association of Black Journalists, the NAACP Phoenix Award, and induction into the Atlanta Press Club Hall of Fame. Now, Brenda started her career as a reporter right here in the city of Huntsville at WAY-TV. She eventually moved to Nashville briefly as a reporter before returning to Huntsville a year later as Way's evening news anchor. Her journalistic successes have carried her to a variety of places, including Memphis, and then her final stop, which was in Atlanta. And of course, we're going to talk to Brenda about a lot of things today. I'm so honored to have her on my broadcast today. Brenda Wood, how are you doing?
I am doing great, Kenny. It's an honor to be on your show. So
It's
this is a new experience, and I'm excited.
Listen, it's an honor to have you, and I have apologized to so many people who I know, who I'm saying I've been doing the show for 33 years now, and I've never had them on my show. And it's not that I didn't want them, I just never did. And you were operating at such a high level of success. I was like, Brenda wouldn't want to come on my radio show.
Oh, get out of here. We've known each other for so long. I cannot believe that you've been doing this show for 33 years. My gosh, that is an accomplishment in and of itself. So congratulations on that.
Thank you for that. I enjoy what I do, and I'm just honored to have this platform and to be able to talk to amazing people like yourself. My very first question is a very basic, simple one. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm in retirement now. So, it's kind of hard to believe that these many years have passed and I'm at this season of life now. But I'm in retirement, have been for the last 6 years. I retired in 2017. I'm a grandmother of two young boys, one who's 5 and is just full of energy, as you can imagine, a 5-year-old boy, and then a 16-month-old boy, and who is just adorable. So I'm enjoying that, and just enjoying not having to meet a deadline every single day. I was in the business for 40 years. So, that's 40 years of every single day having to meet a deadline multiple times a day. So it's really nice not to have to face that every morning when I wake
up. Listen, it sounds like a wonderful phase of life. I always anticipate retirement being one of the best job descriptions that a person can have. And it sounds like you're making the most of that, which is absolutely amazing. 40 years, though, take us back and tell us how you got into this career, because that had to be an interesting experience. You could not have imagined at that time where it would have taken you, but talk about the beginning of that process.
Well, it really is a fluke, I have to admit. I really dreamed of being a film producer, director, writer. I never intended on being in front of the camera ever. Back when I was a student at Oakwood College, I was wanting to major in communications. At the time, Oakwood didn't have a communications department. So my first 2 years were spent at Oakwood, and I was taking just sort of the basics that were required. I knew I was going to have to leave there to go major in communications, and I did. I left there and went to Loma Linda out in Southern California, and that's where I graduated from with a degree in communications. But at the time, it was sort of a rarity to major in communications, and people would always ask me, like, what are you going to do with that? Like, communications, what's that? And my standard answer, ironically, was always, well, I would hem and haw, I want to make movies, maybe documentaries, anything but news. That was always my answer, anything but news. Well, as it turned out, as I was approaching my senior year, and in my senior year, I wanted a summer job. I had a master's fellowship to go to Ohio State University to get a master's degree in film. But I wanted a summertime job in the interim. And I sent out resumes in Huntsville to all the media outlets there for a summer job while I was just a few months before graduation, and to the newspapers, to the radio stations, to the television stations. And I got several inquiries from radio and newspapers, and from one television station, WAAY. And to be real honest with you, Kenny, I did everything wrong. Like I didn't even go to any of the radio stations. I didn't go to any of the newspapers that were interested in me. And the reason is because it's like, well, they're not doing film. And so I went to, I accepted the invitation of the television station to come for an interview, the one place that was interested, because they were visual. And I went there and was interviewed by the news director. Told him I was not planning to stay. I'm leaving in a few months to go get my master's. I, only took one news course in college. He was, very gracious and continued to interview me, and then asked me to do an on-screen, in studio on-camera test, which I did. And he just said, look in the camera and just tell us something about you. I'd never had that experience before, and so it was kind of unusual, and I'm sure I just looked stupid, but I don't even remember, other than just making up something, saying something about myself. Anyway, when it was all said and done, Kenny, the man said, "The job is yours."
Wow. Wow.
What?
Surprise.
I mean, I wanted the job, but it's like, oh my God, like really? So, I did all the wrong things, but here I am. And now I have this job, and I knew nothing about news reporting, at television news reporting. How long ago it was, this tells you. I mean, we really were shooting film that had to be processed every day, like real film. So we had to be back to the station by 2:00 in the afternoon to process the film, to cut, to edit the film, like literally cut and paste the film together for the 6:00 news. I mean, and the learning curve was stupendously high. And so, I was, I was, as you can imagine, like I was terrible on the air. But I mean, there's nothing like a deadline to make you have to do something.
Right.
And, so it was a learning curve. I learned on the air in front of thousands of people, and, they took it. And I didn't get fired. And, I was there. And then, so it was a fluke. It was nothing that I sought. And then in a year's time, I had a new news director who talked me out of going to get my master's. And actually, less than a year's time, before my master's was to begin, I had a new news director who said, "Don't bother with it. Like, you really have a bright future in this business. Just stick with it. There are lots of people who get their master's in this business who never get a job." And he said, "You have a job, and you really have a bright future in this business if you just stick with it." And so I did. And, the rest is history.
Talk to me a little bit about the journey and how you went about approaching it from that very, very, very early time where you had, like you said, all these rough edges and didn't really know what was going on. It was overwhelming in one sense. But along the way, you clearly learned how to craft and navigate your journey forward. What kinds of things did you take advantage of? And I'm kind of also asking you to speak to some of those people out there now that might be thinking about this as a career. And although so much has changed, there's still probably some basic fundamental ways that you approach doing what you did to reach the level that you got.
Kenny, I didn't really have a mentor in a real sense in the business. To be honest, I didn't know enough to even do that, and life was moving so fast. I didn't take the time to think about it, to think through it, to seek that out. There wasn't anybody, we're talking 1978. 78, 79, early 80s. There were not a lot of people like me in the business at the time. It was the doors were just opening for Black females, for Blacks in general, and Black females. So there were not a lot of people like me in the business. There were lots of, I shouldn't say lots. There were many white females, but those who were successful were way beyond my ability to contact them and to mentor me. So there were not a lot of people who looked like me who could help me that were in my grasp. So it really was, sort of trial and error, and you're on your own, baby. You got to do your thing. Alma Blackman was my mom, and if anybody knows her, she doesn't mess around. Like, if you have a job, you better do it, and you better do it right,
Right.
and do whatever it takes to get there, to make it
Yeah.
right. And so that was my upbringing, and that was my example and my model in growing up. So I have to give credit to that. Like,
Yeah.
this is what's before you, and failure and excuses is not an option. That
Mhm.
you know you,
Mhm.
this is this is the meal in front of you,
Yeah.
uh, and you're gonna smack down on it, and you're gonna kill it.
Yeah.
So that was just you get up every day and you do the job. You do the best you can. You take the criticisms with the compliments, and you just try to get better each and every day. And
Yeah.
that's what I did. And there were a lot of rough days, man. A lot
Mhm.
of long days, a lot of
Mm.
long hours, a lot of second guessing.
Mm.
Um, you know, uh, just a lot of tears.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I just powered through it.
Yeah. Yeah. You've covered a lot of events over the years, a lot of significant things. Is there one that just kind of stands out in your mind? There may be many, but just for the sake of our time, just
Yeah.
as a reflection, something that stands out in your mind. Like, this is a really significant moment that I'm involved in.
Well, there are, oh goodness, so many. Uh, oh gosh. So the inauguration of Barack Obama was significant for all the obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And it was really a thrill and a privilege and an honor to have been chosen in the newsroom to cover his first inauguration, and then the second one as well.
Mm.
Um, you could say, I was the primary anchor, and so that made sense to send the primary anchor to Washington to cover it.
Mhm.
So yeah, that made sense. I'm glad I was in that position, and I did not, I wasn't. It wasn't like I was up close and personal, and I got to interview him. I did not, but
Right.
I was there for
Yeah.
that very, very globally historic moment,
Mhm.
to cover that inauguration. And I have to put that at tops of the list. I can't think of anything um, more historically important than that I covered. I covered the Beijing Olympics. And I was there in Beijing for 2 weeks covering that and interviewing the gold medalist winners and some of the Beijing Olympic officials. And that was great. And that was an international event. So, globally, that was significant too. I still feel like nothing of the import like Barack Obama's inauguration. But
Yeah.
I have to also add something that I felt was that is near and dear to my heart and always comes to mind when I'm asked this question, and I feel like was a personal moment of growth professionally for me, was when I worked in Memphis and had the opportunity to travel to Egypt to cover Mrs. Anwar Sadat and
Mm.
the putting together of the Ramses exhibition.
Mm.
Yeah, that came to the United States for the very first time.
Mm.
It was the largest um, exhibition of Egyptian artifacts post King Tut.
Mhm.
And Memphis is the sister city of Memphis, Egypt, which used to be
Mhm.
the capital of Egypt.
Mhm.
And Mrs. Anwar Sadat came to Memphis, Tennessee to visit the Memphis State University and their Egyptology program there. And I got to interview her while she was in Memphis. And then she invited the mayor to come to Memphis, to come to Egypt to visit there. So I was chosen to accompany the mayor
Wow.
that visit. And while I was there, um, we got invited to come back to record the putting together of this big exhibit. So I returned to Egypt a year later
Wow.
to record the putting together of this grand exhibit that was coming to the United States for the first time. On that visit, Mrs. Sadat invited myself and my photographer to lunch with her at her at a very dear friend's home. It happened to be the home of a cabinet member of her husband, one of the cabinet members who was injured during the assassination of her husband.
Wow.
And so we went to his home, joining Mrs. Sadat and her grandkids and her family. And we had a picnic in the backyard. And let me just tell you the scene. We're in the backyard of this beautiful mansion.
Mm.
In the background are the pyramids.
Oh my goodness.
And he's putting on display his white Arabian horses.
Wow.
As we're snacking on lunch with Mrs. Anwar Sadat and other cabinet members.
Wow.
And I thought, oh my God, where am I right now?
Right.
This is little Brenda, Brenda Bray. That's where, from Washington, D.C., who grew up in the very meager, surroundings. And oh my God, I had to pinch myself.
Wow.
I could not believe where life had brought me.
Mm.
And it was just a moment of like, I could never have dreamed of this.
Mm-hmm.
If, in all my wildest imaginations of all the things that I said that I wanted to do in life, this would not be on the dream list.
Yeah.
And yet it was just a high moment for me. Mm-hmm. And then the very next day, we did an interview with Mrs. Sadat in the presidential palace that the government gave her permanently. Wow. After her husband's assassination. And we did it in his library under an oil painting of him.
Wow.
I spent an hour or more in doing an interview with her. And it was just an exhilarating, unforgettable time for me that I'll just never forget. Something I never could have in my wildest imaginations have dreamed of. And it was a growing moment because I had to write about that and, tell those stories and convey all of that to the viewers in Memphis, Tennessee. And it was fun, writing those stories. So.
Wow. What a phenomenal experience. And of course, one of many, but that just had to be surreal to be in that moment and just take in everything that was happening at that time. Just, wow, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Tell me about, this is December 10th, 15 days away from the magic moment, Christmas, that a lot of people look forward to. Christmas as a child is often different than Christmas as an adult because perspective matters. I wonder how Christmas has evolved in your experience over the years. And as you approach the holidays this year, what's on your mind?
Oh, wow, Kenny, that's a good question, a thought-provoking, penetrating question. And a good one because I'm a grandmother now, and I am having to think again about Christmas from a child's point of view. As we get older, we kind of lose the innocent joy of Christmas a bit. We sort of, as we get older, we get caught up in just all the things we have to do. We got to buy the presents and for the family members and make room for the, clean the guest room and clean the house because company's coming and we got to fix the dinner and go grocery shop and wrap the presents and put up the tree and then we got to take it down and it's just a whole bunch of to-do lists.
Right.
And so we just the joy of it all kind of gets lost. We may dabble in that joy a little bit on Christmas morning, but man, are we tired by that time. We're just exhausted. So that joy is mixed with a whole lot of pain and exhaustion. So that when we get older, that's what Christmas becomes.
Yeah.
But now that I'm retired and I've downsized, um, I don't have a guest room.
Mm.
Ha! So
Mm.
you can't come visit me.
You're on your own.
Get a hotel room. Um, but and my kids, both my daughters live here in Atlanta, so that's great. And so, they're hosting. So I get to just go to their
Mm.
place. So
Mhm.
you clean the house, and I've done that.
Right.
And so now, I'm looking at them, my grandkids, and thinking about what it must feel like again for
Mm.
them,
Mm.
you know, to anticipate Christmas. And I'm rethinking, gosh, when did I stop believing in Santa? And how, as my 5-year-old, what does he think about Santa Claus? And, I'm kind of revisiting that frame of mind now.
Mhm.
And hearing him talk about Santa and what he wants for Christmas, and I want it now, and my retort, well, you're gonna have to wait for Santa. And sort of going back, sort of doing a little backtracking. It's kind of fun.
Mm.
I'm liking this new place now, but it's taken my having to get through, all the decades of the exhaustion and so forth, and get to retirement and the downsizing and so forth, to get back to sort of remembering what
Mm.
it's like to experience the joy of Christmas, and sort of the innocence of it, and having grandkids to help you do that. So
Do you have a favorite Christmas song?
ooh, no, I don't know that. Ooh, goodness. Oh gosh, you should have prepared me for these questions. Um, there's so many beautiful ones. I have to say that um, the Christmas song by Nat King Cole.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
not Christmas until you play that song. Like
Right,
on morning, that song has to be played,
right,
either before or while you're unwrapping the gifts.
right.
Yeah. So there's so many beautiful sacred Christmas songs, but the Nat King Cole Christmas song, I got to put that at the tops of the list.
All right, that's a good one. That's a good topper for sure. That's a wicked question. I know I've asked a bunch of people that question. I've asked some musicians and some artists that, and they were, wait a minute.
Yeah,
And
I would love to know what they say. But
yeah, but it's interesting because to me, it's become a prompt to kind of demonstrate something that I think is a reality of Christmas. That Christmas strikes people how Christmas strikes people, and it all comes from our well of experience and the phases of my life. As I think about when I was a kid, the Chipmunk song was one of my favorite Christmas songs. And I've kind of held on to it through the years, but then I think about some of the more sacred songs like Hark the Herald Angels Sing. That's
yeah,
just, I think, a beautiful song. And Silent Night, when I think about it, I find myself thinking more about the lyrics of Christmas music now more than ever before. And just sort of taking my time, and kind of walking through that process and reflecting on what I think is one of the most beautiful times of the year, but also one of the more challenging times of year as we reflect on the losses in our lives and the transitions in our lives and so many things that are going on in the world today that we think about. I want to ask you one more question about TV news. And you mentioned something that made me chuckle in my mind because when I first started in the studio, we had reel to reel. And you talked about taking the film back and processing and stuff like
yeah.
that. It's all very different today. And I wonder from the technology, social media perspective, some of the changes that have taken place in television journalism, where oftentimes one of the critics or the criticisms is that it's all about clicks and what's the most popular thing. When you think about where TV news is today, what do you see as maybe a major pro, and what is a major con as it relates to technology and then social media?
Oh my goodness. This is a conversation really that can, be multiple hours. And
Well, I got to have you back then.
ooh, oh my goodness. There are so many issues.
Yeah.
Um, so many issues to talk about. Um, wow. I guess the pro with technology and social media and all is that we get our news in real time.
Mm.
We don't have to wait for it for the noon or the 6 or the 10 or the 11 o'clock news. And we see it unfolding as it happens.
Hmm.
Um, so that's a pro. There are also problems with that though as
Mm.
well,
Mm.
because sometimes what you see is not always. I mean, it's not the whole story,
Mm. Mm.
and unless you are a journalist or somebody who's thoughtful, many people see something and then they make a narrative of their own about it without asking questions and without asking the appropriate people questions.
Mm. Mm.
That's a problem,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
I mean, if you've been to high school or junior high school, we know that that's a problem because that's how
Mm.
rumors start.
Right.
And rumors are rarely true. People
Mhm.
add their own flavor to them and spice, and I don't know, but I think probably because he said, he said, well, he's probably because. So when things happen in real time in front of us, we know that that's happened, but we don't know always the context. We don't know the backstory. We don't know how it came to be or what the internal pieces of that, of that incident are, or the impact or the outcome or who all is impacted. We don't know all the bits and pieces. And so it leaves a lot of us um, the opportunity to fill in the blanks,
Mhm. Mhm.
and that can be really dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
so, so there's that.
Mhm.
Um, Social media also, it's just rife with misinformation,
Mhm.
just general misinformation. And when I read when I read comments on Instagram and TikTok and stuff, it's amazing to me how there are some people out there who just like to be instigators,
Yeah.
who just like to be messy
Yeah.
for no reason. They just
Yeah.
come up and just say all kinds of just messiness. Like,
Mhm.
why?
Yeah.
So there's that. And then, there are other people who perceive themselves as reporters. They're not, but they perceive themselves as that.
Yeah.
And so they're going to act that way and present information that may or may not be true. And so you have alternative facts,
Mhm.
and there are actual professional outlets that are operating as truthful
Mm.
reporting
Mm.
platforms that are not reporting truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're having to contend with that in our universe.
Yeah.
Um, and then on top of all of that, people are being hired by legitimate news agencies,
Mm.
um, based on the number of followers that they have on their
Mm. Mm.
social media accounts,
Mm.
to be reporters and anchors.
Mm. Mm.
That's a
Wow.
qualifier now,
Mm.
which scares the bejeebas out of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, like, really? Like,
Yeah.
that's a qualifier now? How many followers you have?
Mm.
And you usually get the followers not because you've been a really great writer
Right. Yeah.
or a really great investigator.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
get great followers because you've been messy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's
or
right.
or over dramatic, or
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, like it's it's not about your journalism.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's been interjected into the journalistic space.
Yeah.
Not to say that these young people who are being hired don't have journalistic skills.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Many of them are talented as well,
Mm-hmm.
but that has also been added to the space,
Mm.
and so it leaves open the door for people who aren't necessarily journalistically talented
Yeah. Yeah.
to get a job
Yeah. Yeah.
in that arena. And so now you have a mixture of all kinds of things swirling
Yeah.
in the news space,
Yeah.
and that is impacting what people ultimately see and hear and read in the news, and it's scary.
Yeah.
um yeah, so I'm glad that I was in the business when I was in it. I think um you know technology is a wonderful thing, but if you don't know how to use it well, it can really bite us. um so we lack technology in the kind that we have now when I was in the business, but I feel like there was a wholesomeness to
Mm.
journalism
Mm. Mm.
that we we're kind of, I don't know, we're kind of losing
Yeah.
now, and
Yeah.
we're having to regroup. The industry is having to regroup and analyze who we are, and what it is we do and what's required of us, especially in this political uh, you know
Mm.
um, climate that we are faced with as well. There's
Yeah.
so many
Yeah.
challenges right now.
And we haven't even factored in the AI piece, which of course is another dimension
Yes,
of
yes,
challenge here that
yes.
has to be considered. And there's so much more that has to be thought about and pondered as it relates to where the journalistic world is today. And I'm so glad that you had an opportunity to be with us today to give us an insight from your own unique perspective from the 40 years that you spent doing it so well. And however rough it may have started, it certainly got sweeter as the days went by. And by the time you retired, you were on top of your game. There's no question about it. And respect you and appreciate you so much for giving me this time today. I'm going to reach
Um,
out to you again
uh,
and ask you to come on and share with me, Brenda.
would love to. I have great respect for you, Kenny. We've known each other for a long, long time, and I'm so proud of you for all the things that you have done and are doing. Not just in the clinical psychology space, but also just in the community. You've stayed there in Huntsville, and through the years, and you've dedicated your life to improving the lives of your community there. So congratulations and kudos to you for just being an upstanding citizen there in the community. So they're lucky to have you there.
Well, thank you, Brenda. I appreciate that. And I look forward to our next conversation.
I look forward to it as well.
All
Call me.
right. I will.
All
Take care.
right. Take care.
Brenda Wood is a veteran broadcast journalist, 40 years in the business. She now has the privilege of wearing a couple of really cool titles, by the way, retiree and grandmother. And seems like she's having the time of her life. Just such a privilege to have her with me today. I'm going to come back in just a minute and tell you about what's happening next week on the broadcast. I'm Kenny Anderson at Second Chance. Hope you're having a great day.
Perhaps you have some ideas, comments, or suggestions that you would like to share. Or perhaps you'd like to be a guest on the broadcast. We'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to email Kenny Anderson at mxlife@aol.com, or you can like us on the Second Chance Facebook page. That's 2ND Chance. And now, back to more of Second Chance with Kenny Anderson.
Well, folks, it's been a wonderful, wonderful journey today. Our conversation has taken us through some very, very interesting guests. Donna Green-Goodman started our conversation today, nutritionist extraordinaire and author, working with LIfestyle Therapeutix, sharing some information about how to stay healthy during the holiday season. Our conversation with Dr. Oliver Davis Jr., who is the current South Bend Common Council member at large, at least one of them, recently elected back to elected office, and we celebrated him today. Kevin Wooten with Wooterworks, and we are so happy to have him on the conversation today. Grammy Award winner and more, and multi-Emmy award-winning television journalist, 40 years in the business, Brenda Wood. Great conversation today. On next Sunday, we'll have our What's Going On Social and Political Roundtable discussion. Some combination of the commentators will be here with us, and we look forward to talking to you at that time. In the meantime, I hope that you have a great rest of the day and a great week. As always, Kenny Anderson, knowledge is better than riches. Have a great afternoon, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Second Chance. We hope that the information that was shared has been a blessing to you and that your life will be enriched as a result of it. We'd love to hear from you, so please send your email comments to Kenneth Anderson at mxlife@aol.com. That's mxlife@aol.com. And check out our Facebook page, 2ND Chance. That's 2ND Chance. In the meantime, have a great week, and we'll talk to you again next week. Good day.